It's GG No Re. I hope y'all are right with the guy or gal or guys or gals upstairs, because you know what it is tonight? It's Clerics in the Vineyard.
Oh.
That's Dogs in the Vineyard, but D&D style. I've been wanting to run this game for 1,000 years, probably since I was born and even before that. When I was a mere fetus in my mother's womb, nay, when I was even a sparkle in my parents' eyes, I wanted to run this game.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm Daniel. I'm going to be the DM.
This is Tim. I am player number 1.
This is John. I guess I'm player number 2.
Yep.
I'm player number A. I'm player letter A.
This is confusing.
We can be equal.
I don't know about this
That
schema.
never happens.
I
That's
don't-
not a thing.
I'm not. We're equal. You be 1, I be A.
We're definitely not equal. That's
All right.
Mother Nature has proven
So
that.
Dogs in the Vineyard came out a while ago. It was one of the early indie RPGs. I love it. I haven't played it very often. I'll probably run it like once.
It was once like 10 years ago. Or
Yeah.
something.
So this is one of the great
in your parents' basement.
Yes. This is one of the great granddaddies of the thing. And it's been hugely influential, not only to me, but to many other nerds. And so today we're going to take that and mush it up a little bit. We're going to try to keep most of the mechanics from Dogs in the Vineyard and translate them lightly into something more friendly and comfortable for D&D players around the world, i.e. 5e D&D. But we're not, we'll see. We're going to fly by the seat of our pants here a little bit. For this intro part, we're going to try to keep to how the original mechanics worked, and you'll see what those are like as we go. I don't think that John knows anything about them, and I doubt that Tim has any recollection of them.
0.
Yeah, not much.
Okay, so that'll be good. And then whether we proceed with those for the rest of the bit or transfer to something more 5e style, fate will decide.
Whatever
Or St.
happens,
Cuthbert.
happens.
Because the setup in original Dogs in the Vineyard is that you are Mormon teenagers, gunslingers, kind of, going city to city or town to town, settlement to settlement, and dealing with all their problems, whatever they may be, whether they're mundane or demonic.
Hey, you got a problem? Yo,
We'll solve it
check out the beat.
while the Mormons revolve it.
Ayo.
And the idea is that the players have agency. They have authority. They can do what they want, even though they're just 17. And people have to just deal with it.
They're 17.
17.
17 teens.
So we're going to take that and just make them clerics in a storative. Is that a word?
Oh, scrample is, so stortive
Okay,
is.
Storative.
Well, you can store to scrample up a tree.
D&D world that's gray. It's inspired by the classics. You know what I'm saying? It's a melange of classic tropes and names. And tonight we're going to. They've already created 5e characters, so that part has been done. And the only thing we're going to change is just a few things. Don't worry about it. And we're going to do the intro bit to start with, and hopefully get on to the actual town that I've prepped for them. Now then. You guys have the ability. You are. Oh, well, let me back up a little bit. The only restrictions I gave them is that they're clerics, they're lawful good, and they're clerics of St. Cuthbert. Neutrality leads to chaos, guys. Did you know that?
It's true.
Okay. Your responsibilities are conducting funerals, sealing contracts, including marriages, enlightening babies, which means bopping them over the head with a cudgel on the 8th day,
Them field mice.
overseeing duels, preaching, and resolving disputes.
Ooh, overseeing duels.
Yeah. So Cuthbert, I don't know if you know about him. Just think of listen, he doesn't think things, he's not in the air. He's down here on the ground, just resolving problems by hitting them with a big stick.
That's right. He's the traditional paladin. And he don't the paladins usually follow Cuthbert?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and also that's in the Greyhawk setting that Gygax made. Okay, lords and mayors and so forth have little power. It's a very points of light setting that I'm going with. We're on the borderlands. It's mostly uncivilized. Maybe you'll find ruins from long-lost civilizations, but there's not a lot of law out here. The church commands probably more authority than the state, you might say. But there's still conflict there. They still have their own power. Now, you have a cloak of office. So in your inventory, please mark cloak. And your cloak would have been made for you by your hometown, maybe especially by your parents,
Home base.
and customized in some way. By default, I want you to assign it a rating in dice. This is the Dogs in the Vineyard kind of thing. In Dogs in the Vineyard, everything you have, like every trait, every character trait, every item is rated in dice.
Cloak
Yes.
of what again?
Office. It's like
Office.
it's so somebody knows you're a cleric.
It's a status symbol.
By default, it's 1d6. If it's really good, it's 2d6.
Okay.
If it's terrible, it's 1d4.
Ooh.
Yeah. And you get to decide that. If you want to min-max, you can, but we might make a face at you.
So how would we normally acquire this?
Oh, your town makes it for you as you decide you're going to
Okay.
go off and be a cleric. Because not every teenager goes and does it. It's not like a Mormon mission.
Right.
So you can
Okay.
detail something about it. We'll get into it later. Just think about some personalized touch that maybe someone you know, including but not limited to your parents, would have put on the cloak for you. It can be one whole piece. It can be fancy. It can be stitched together. It doesn't matter.
And
It'll just have the St. Cuthbert symbol on it, which I don't know at the top of my head, but we'll figure it out.
And the dice are 1d4, 1d6, 2d6?
1d4 means it's terrible. 1d6 is normal and fine. 2d6 is great.
Okay.
And after you get that figured out, and even before then, but just be thinking about it and just put down a dice rating, even if you don't know what it means yet. Default to 1d6. And the next thing we're going to do is the initiation. The initiation is the first conflict. Now, this comes from an earlier time in indie RPGs, and in fact in Vincent Baker's game development career, when people were getting tired of going back and forth and making a bunch of rules to no effect over some issue and just grinding it out, and it was taking a long time, or things were never decided finally. It was taking a long time to resolve some particular issue. Or something seemed to be resolved, but it wasn't. Like when a DM makes you make 8,000 stealth checks to get through a place because he just wants you to fail.
Ooh.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So instead, they went to like a stakes-based resolution. You propose a question and then have a small set of procedures that then resolve that question. So it's an easy way to take care of any problem. So in this case, it's dramatic problems. There's some issue at stake, and then we have some very regularized procedure that's clear in its outcomes for how to resolve that question. So, like, imagine it's not necessarily this way, but imagine we were writers on a TV show and we wanted to know, does Jon Snow live or die? Well, we would just play out this procedure to see if he did. And that's how it would be resolved. Everybody would know. There'd be no questions. So this uses a technique called stakes setting. Nowadays, Vincent's games do it implicitly, as do most games do it implicitly. It's just baked into the roles and the rules. Whereas in this one, we actually do verbally and explicitly negotiate stakes before we roll dice. We don't roll dice for minor things. I just say, yeah, sure, or whatever, for stuff we don't really care about. So your first conflict is a flashback for initiation. Imagine you're just about to, or maybe in your last year of Clerics school, maybe you entered when you were 14 or 15, and you've been studying the scriptures of St. Cuthbert, history, practice, training physically a lot. You have a very athletic clericy. Oh, that's it. That's a word. And you need to come up, each one of you needs to come up with something you hope that you, in the past, accomplished during your training. Some pivotal moment for you. Now, if you fail it, it can't mean you're not a cleric, obviously, because you're a cleric right now, today. But the examples they give in the book are, I hope I exorcised a demon. Another one is, I hope I saved someone's life, like healed them of an injury.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I learned to not have such foul language.
Okay, yeah.
Stop drinking.
Yeah.
Convert some. Those are the kind of things. But take it out of the Mormon context into the more Marshall, Teddy Roosevelt style Cuthbert context. Got it?
Okay.
So we'll take a break while we figure that out, and we'll come right back. All right, we're back. Now, you're going to have to forgive me, all you experts and dogs in the vineyard, if I get something a little bit wrong. I'm pretty conversant. I've got a cheat sheet, but there are going to be certain changes that are necessary for the conversion to D&D, and we're just going to roll with it. We're just going to roll with the punches, or the cudgel shots, as it were. John and Tim, they've decided their issues that they wish to deal with during initiation. So to determine which one we go with first, why don't you just guys roll off, just D20, I don't care.
I rolled a 1.
I rolled a not one.
All right, so Tim, what's your character's name?
Ren.
Ren, like R-W?
Just R-E-N, like Ren and Stimpy.
Okay, or the Knights of Ren from an undisclosed media property that we will not discuss here.
That's true.
That's right. Now then, you have, what's your cloak look like? Do we know?
It's kind of patchwork. It's not the nicest looking thing, but it clearly had a lot of love put into it by whoever gave it to me.
Let me look up St. Cuthbert's symbol, because I have no idea what it is. I think it's like some kind of circular thing.
Like a circle.
Yeah, a circular thing like a circle. Yeah, that's a really good example, and I'm glad you brought it up.
You're welcome.
I mean, just...
I contribute.
Oh, the thing that complicates this when you're Googling it is that St. Cuthbert was a real saint.
Oh, shoot.
So we have to specify D&D.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. I guess I'll just have to pause it and look it up.
Oh, jeez.
It's not coming up on the first page of Google.
It's fine. I don't have.
Oh, wait. No, here it is. Here it is. Okay, there it is, guys. It is like two circles concentric with like a cross in the middle.
Yep.
Okay, very trad. Gotcha.
I mean,
very, very based.
let's say that's on there, but it's not that great.
Yeah, the symbol's there, but it's kind of wobbly.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So what is the issue that you want to deal with here during initiation?
So I went into this trying to be a cleric. I was really pressured by like friends and family. Come from a very religious background, and that was kind of expected of me to go into this path in life. But I always had doubts about Cuthbert's existence. Wasn't like the rest of my family, so I feel like there was a turning point during my training where I became a true believer.
Wait, but we don't know if that happened, right? Because that's what you are going to deal with in this issue, right? Like, you want your character to change to become a true believer?
Yes.
Okay. So how this works, and again, forgive me, DITV experts, but you are going to represent yourself as you currently are, the skeptic, and I will represent your future self.
Okay.
Whoever wins gets to determine the resolution of the stakes. So the stakes are, we explicitly set them. I've got my cheat sheet here. So first you establish at stake what's going on, and that is, do you become a true believer or do you remain in doubt?
Okay.
Easy enough. Set the stage. When and where does it occur? And we know who's participating already, so we don't have to worry about that. So I like to think that it's in the big cathedral when this happens, and perhaps you are, I'm going to say, reading St. Cuthbert's scriptures, which maybe are written on these cudgels along the walls, like inscribed in them. And you have to like turn them around inside their settings to read
cool.
the whole thing.
Yeah,
You like that?
I like that.
Okay. I'm just
Yeah.
I'm just an idea man, right? I'm just throwing out ideas left and right. And at this point, you read something in particular, and John, give me that handout right there of the church. I took the map. Actually, you can find this handout if you look up more maps from T1, I think on ggnorecast.com. You can find annotated maps that I made for the Temple of Elemental Evil, Village of Hamlet. And I took the layout of the Church of St. Cuthbert that's in that module, and I put it all on one page. Oh, and it's got the symbol on it. I wish I had just taken my handy handout. Just looked at the symbol.
There it is.
But it also has holy proverbs on there. So roll a d10 to see which proverb really just draws it home to you.
Oh, let's get a good one. 8.
8. Lawful correction lies in a stout billet. A billet's kind of, cudgel.
Oh. All right.
Okay.
I'm just really hit over the head with this one.
That's right. So in DITV, things are not resolved in one roll. If it's important enough to mess with in DITV, it's going to be important enough to spend not like a huge amount, but several minutes of actual time resolving. So in a case where it's a crisis of conscience or a crisis of faith or an argument or just internal conflict that's abstract, we'll just get into it. Okay, so first, let's isolate the moment. You're reading this, you read this, you're already skeptical, and perhaps you feel, and we see in your face as you read this, some small twinge of undoubt.
Okay, all right.
Perhaps your eyes glaze over, and you think, what if St. Cuthbert really does love me and have a wonderful plan for my life? All right, so now we need to roll in some stats. Now, in DITV, you have 4 stats, and you roll 2 of them always. But in this one, we have 6 stats because this is D&D. And because this is just a purely mental conflict, let's roll in wisdom and intelligence. So that's 6d6. And actually, you're +1 on both. How do we want to deal with this?
Not. Wisdom, I'm -2.
Oh, let's not worry about that yet. So just roll in 3d6 for wisdom and intelligence. Don't worry about anything else. And just make a note which stats you have rolled in, besides just like an X or a mark or something in the margin. You don't have to count them up. You don't have to just roll them and let them lie.
Oh, yeah.
All 6.
Okay. Oh, nice.
Yeah, if you're running Dogs in the Vineyard with the actual mechanics of Dogs in the Vineyard, you're going to need a lot of dice, especially d6s. And for the initiation conflict, there's a special amount of dice the DM rolls for opposition. And so that's 4d6 and 4d10, and I've already rolled them. And it doesn't matter what die they are.
Okay.
Do note that the only way you get XP in this game is by getting hurt. And generally, the less severe the thing that's hurting you is, the better. Because any damage die that you roll a 1 on, or rolls a 1 on you, contributes toward experience. So typically in a mental or verbal conflict, you want to get hurt on those
Okay.
because they'll do the least damage to you, and they're small dice, like D4s,
Okay.
and you have a better chance of rolling a 1 on a D4.
Interesting.
Makes sense?
Interesting.
Okay.
Okay.
So this works kind of like poker in that someone makes a raise with 2 dice, and you have to put forward some number of dice to call that, to see that raise. Okay?
Okay.
If you can't, and when you run out of dice, then the thing is over, and then the question is decided. So let's just start with you. No. With me, because of the situation, because of the context, because of the fictional. You got it? The fictional image. So now there's doubt or undoubt coming into you. So I am going to put together 2 dice to make a raise. Or this is 5e, so let's call it an attack.
Okay.
All right? So I could go hard. I could go hard in the paint. I'm going to go hard in the paint. I'm going to there's probably some strategy or tactics here. I have no idea what they would be. So if you're smarter than I am and you can figure this out, then
Are you supposed to know what my roles are?
it doesn't matter.
Okay.
I think you're supposed to do it in the open.
Okay.
So I'm going to put together 2 dice. I have a 9 and an 8. That's a 17. And the way we're going to put your stats into it, we think about what is going to be involved here, and then you can add a modifier to your dice that you put forward based on the ability score that makes the most sense.
So why do these need to be associated?
Don't worry about it. Just go with the flow. Just trust Cuthbert and his vicar, which is me.
I'm just questioning something you said. Said, remember which set of dice applied to which.
Oh, no. Just mark off wisdom and intelligence. Just put a little mark next to them in the margin, because we can't roll those stats into this conflict again.
Okay, gotcha.
We've already used them.
Okay, so that is separated from
Yeah.
my results.
Don't worry about that.
Okay, got it.
All right, so here's a thing.
Yep.
How many dice you put forward to match or exceed this roll determines the fictional consequence of what you do.
Okay.
So if you can put forward just 1 die and beat it or meet it, then that's like a counter.
I do not have a D20.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You may not always be able to do it.
Yeah.
That's like a counter. So if we're fighting, then you
Yeah.
wreck me.
Okay.
If you put together 2, just as many as I have, that's like a block or a dodge, and you narrate it in that way.
Yep, still not possible.
And if you put together 3 or more, you take the blow or you get hit. So you have to narrate some amount of damage to you in whatever context that makes sense. So I will narrate what I do. Technically, the last thing you do is put the dice forward. You can escalate a thing from like talking to physical thing to fighting to deathly violence.
I'm going to fight with myself.
And if you escalate in that way, you don't have to put together dice when you see, like when you put together your defense.
Okay.
You do it without dice and then usually roll in some other. Don't worry about it. Doesn't matter. So I'm going to say you read that proverb and it brings a tear to your eye as you recall all of the songs and pageantry that you've seen before, and you think possibly St. Cuthbert might be real. Okay, so now you're going to have to put together some amount of dice. I think you're going to have to put together 3 or more, right?
Yep.
So you can also just give. So to give just means to give up, and in which case I will set the terms of the stakes. I'll say what happens. And since I'm representing your desired future self, you will change in the way you want.
Okay.
But you'll also take some fallout damage from getting hurt, which is good because it would be D4 because it's non-physical. And I am almost 100% 100% sure that is correct. So don't worry about that. So you figure out what you need to do is figure out either if you're going to give up or if you're going to make this go on a little bit longer and put up some resistance. If so, marshal as many dice as you need and then narrate how you take the hit and what that looks like in the fiction, either in your mind or in real time or both.
I think I want to just take this hit for now.
Okay.
The saying does resonate with me. Brings back some memories of what my mom and dad always taught me. Kind of some of their lessons on discipline and such. Remembering how they were actually really good parents. They were hard but fair.
Okay,
but
that's good enough.
After that, I'm just kind of...
Okay, so we see those images flash through your head. Now put together the dice, at least 17.
I thought if I take the hit, I don't use dice.
No, you do.
Oh, okay. That should be 2 6s and a 5. Should be 17.
Okay, and I will read from the text here. Okay, here we go. On the other hand, if your character wants to grow, learn, or change something, you take the part of your character as he or she is, and I take the part of whatever forces or pressures are on your character to change. So I'm right. So if you want to change, you can just by giving up in the fight.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. And let's see here. I believe you can see with just a equality, which that's what you've got. So that's fine.
Okay.
We'll run with that for now. And these dice just go away to nowhere in particular. They're just gone.
Okay.
So now it's your turn to raise. So this would be something that your future self can't ignore, some doubt or something that would keep you the way you are, because that's what you're representing right now. So you have to imagine either something you do, and you can take as much time fictionally as you need to. This can be 3 months later.
Mm-hmm.
Or it can be thinking of a counter argument. Or it can be somebody comes in who reminds you of your past, or whatever. Doesn't matter. And then you say what it is, and then put together 2 dice.
But I'm representing the doubtful self.
Yes,
Okay,
your
or
current
past.
self.
Current, okay, yeah.
So while you think about that, the reason that this is kind of cool, this long drawn out method instead of just a simple roll versus a DC and the question is resolved, is that it forces you to generate intermediate fiction between the start and end points that may in itself be enjoyable to create and consume. There you go.
So throughout a lot of my the training here, we've gone through exorcisms, and then maybe it's been several weeks, maybe even a month has gone by, but I'm always encountering death, pain, and evil, as one would call it, and just it makes me very doubtful of, if not Cuthbert's competency, at least his existence too. So I'm kind of down that path of,
Okay.
how could this even be possible?
So let's focus on one image, maybe like Sister Marta, who got gored by a bull, and everybody tried to save her, but no one could.
True.
I always want to focus on a specific image.
Poor Marta.
Poor Marta. Okay, so put together 2 dice.
Marta.
That's an Arrested Development reference.
Hermano. Where's this hermano guy? Mi hermano es allí.
All right, so I'm going to counter. So I put 1 die forward, which is sufficient to block instead of having to use 2. And I get to use this as part of my next raise. So it's very dice efficient to do this. So what I'm going to say is, you remember right after she died, the clouds moved in a certain way. Her face became beatific, like a smile, even though most of her teeth were broken out. And the clouds seemed to form a giant club in the air. And she reached out as if to grasp it. So I'm put it forward. He has a 2 and a 3.
Yeah.
I put a D8, or excuse me, a D10 as an
Single
8
dice
on it.
to counter it.
So his go away, and that is going to be my raise as well. So I'm going to put another. I don't know if you have to do a new fictional thing when you counter like that. I think it's called reverse the blow in the actual text, but I'm just going to say that will remain, and I'm just going to put another die to support it. So that's an 8 and I'll do an 8 and a 1. So you can, at this point, so you've got 9 you're looking at. You can choose to give up and change, or you can choose to counter, block, or get hit. So you decide fictionally first, then look at your dice to see if you can make it happen. And
Right.
then,
So, okay, I understand counter, block. Getting hit, that's when I could potentially take the damage and gain experience.
yes. And also you have, if in another situation, if I say I'm going to stab you
Yeah.
as a raise, and you say I take the blow, or you have to, you do actually get stabbed, and there's no way around it.
Yeah.
Now, whether that kills you is another matter, but that's why you sometimes might not want to take the blow. But a reason why you may want to take the blow is if there's nothing permanent or terrible that's going to happen to your character as a result of it, and you'll get a better chance to get XP.
Okay. I want to take this hit.
Okay?
Don't want to give in yet.
So I think you have to put 3 dice forward
Oh,
to be able to do that. I'm
Okay.
not positive about that, but let's say that's the way it is.
Okay, well, that's the way it is.
If you don't want to give up.
Yeah. Well, taking the hit is not giving up.
No, taking the hit is I want to
Okay.
stay in it,
Yeah.
but I can't or choose not to meet it
Okay.
with 2 or fewer dice.
So I have to give in. I don't have the dice.
What? Oh, you've only got a D1?
Yeah.
You only got
I've
one?
got a single die
Okay.
of 1 value of 1.
Yeah, so you can't even take the blow.
Okay.
So you are going to
Yeah.
change. So we can collaborate on how that would look, but let's come up with a single image that will show us how he has actually changed and has become a true believer as a result of this.
Well, yeah, I mean, even in the midst of pain and sorrow that I see how other people believe and how that's beautiful, and how there can be such beauty in the chaos of this world must only be through the power of some greater force.
So how do we see this happen if we were watching a movie of it? I was thinking maybe
So
reach out.
I'm looking
Oh,
down
you
at
got it?
her. Yeah, I'm looking down at her, and I see her smiling and reaching up. And then I look up at the clouds, and I see the Cudgel myself in the clouds. And then I look back down at her as she's dying. And she locks eyes with me, and she has a tear fall from her face. And then I start crying because I saw what she saw at the same time.
And maybe this
And
was
I
like a
get it.
repressed memory or something.
Yeah,
Ah.
something like that. That'll work.
Okay, and that's it. So now you write a new trait. You should have a place for traits in 5e as well.
Sure. I'm not gonna look for it. I'm just gonna write
It's
it.
probably in the back. Can you check?
This one did not get duplex.
Oh,
Sorry.
no.
So you're going to write a trait and then give it a die rating. And I think it's going to be a D6 die rating. You can use these traits and all traits in DITV to help you in your conflicts. So your equipment is going to get die ratings that you can use. Any trait is going to get, and relationships or bonds in 5e will get die ratings. So that's how that works. Let's take a break real quick, and then we will do John's initiation,
Yeah.
which should be faster since we know what we're doing now. If John was paying attention.
I was paying attention.
Okay, roll tide. And we're back. So what do you hope to accomplish during your initiation?
So during that traumatic experience with his sister, he has a very deep-seated, perpetual fear of death and just dead things in general.
So what do you hope to accomplish?
Get over his fear of death.
There we go. So when you finish, you'll have a new trait that either...
And specifically being around things that have died.
So when you finish, you will have a new trait that reflects either your success or failure at this moment. So I will roll my DM dice, which I actually already have. It's the same as any initiation conflict, which is 46, 40, 10, all rolled at once and left to lie as they are. And John, since this will start off in a mental place, I imagine, you can roll your intelligence 3d6 and your wisdom 3d6. It doesn't really matter that it's intelligence or wisdom. It's all going to be 3d6, but just make a little mark beside wisdom and intelligence to...
So I have, hold on. So I have 3
You know
and
when
a
you
4
wait,
on my
don't
intelligence
look
wisdom.
at stop. Don't think. Listen, don't question what Daniel says. It's bad for you if you do that.
I'm rolling 66 total.
And just don't think about it. Just roll 66.
Okay, that's what I need to know.
Yep. The modifiers and stuff will come in later.
They do have sugar.
Okay.
Here we go. And don't change them, just let them lie. You can put them in a row if you want, but that's all that matters now.
Balls.
You can get better. You can get more stuff as you go. But for now, we'll just keep them like that. It doesn't really matter if you win or lose. So you will represent yourself as you are. So if you if you win, you will not change. I, the DM, will represent yourself as you wish to be or as you may become, your possible future self. So if you want to change, you can just give up. But for the purpose of this effort, just play for a little while, even if you want to give up, just so you can get used to the mechanics.
Okay.
Makes sense? Okay, so I will start because I presume this will not happen in a voluntary situation, that you'll be presented with something.
Yeah, probably not.
Okay, so...
Or it's like in class and he's like working on somebody who's dying or something. I don't know. Because he's in healing, so
Oh, what if you're trying to save someone who's dead? Or who's dying?
yes.
Okay, so the example in the book is, they have this exact example, not wanting to overcome fear of death, but wanting to heal somebody.
Right.
So let's imagine somebody gets run over with a... Oh, let's see. Yeah, you can still do a carriage in medieval times. Mm-hmm. So that'll work. Someone's getting run over by a carriage. We've got punctured lungs, probably broken bones, broken ribs, and you are the only person there who has any kind of facility with healing at all. Maybe it's outside your village. So that's the situation. People are crowded around the road. We've got not a stagecoach. Sorry, getting my Western in here. We've got the carriage driver out of sorts, very nervous, and we've got the family of the guy who got run over, weeping beside the road. You are the only one who can save him, but, there we go. So we'll imagine that you are instantly stricken with fear, right? Fear of death, fear of being around death, and all the color goes from your face as you witness this. But guess what? I'm going to make my raise, or in 5e terms, my attack. And this is your future self, like what you wish to become, how you wish to change. And let's see, we can represent that with you are visualizing yourself crossing the street and putting your hands on the bloody clothes of the man.
Okay.
Like you think you maybe can do it. So this is a 3 and a 2, so it's a 5. If you are able to meet that with 1 die, that's like a counter. It's good for you. And when you narrate it, you'll narrate you resisting that urge or overcoming it or staying the same, remember?
Yeah.
If you block or dodge, you don't fully embrace it. You can just kind of extend the status quo if you wish, or just change it in some way that doesn't admit that this has struck you. If you use 3 or more dice, then you will give in to whatever I do. So you will physically go over there and do what you're visualizing yourself doing. That's called taking the hit, taking the blow.
Okay. I think I want to take the hit.
Okay. So say what you do and then put forward 3 or more dice to get 5 or more.
So if I take the hit, does that mean that he does it confidently?
That it just means you go and do what you're visualizing. Your future self is visualizing, is making you visualize yourself doing in order to get you prepared to face it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We got some abstract, esoteric stuff going on here.
Is there a way for me to just be like, if I give up, then the whole thing ends, right? If I say
if you give up, the conflict ends, and you go in there and rush and try to save the guy because you've overcome your fear of death.
Okay.
But for the purpose of this demonstration, don't give up yet.
Okay. All right. So I also be careful about my die economy. Giving up 3 is a big deal.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So can I give up 3 dice and purposefully go under what you've got?
You have to at least meet it to stay in the conflict.
Okay. And so you're 5?
Correct.
And what'd you say if I give up 2 die?
It's a block or a dodge.
Which means...
You have to interpret it according to the context.
Okay. When you told me that I'm doing this with wisdom and intelligence, that doesn't matter at all other than...
Yes, that's where I'm doing the adaptation to 5e.
Okay.
In Dogs in the Vineyard, you don't have modifiers. You just have a number of dice on your attributes. So in here, when you put forward your dice, if you're using something that would involve wisdom, like the action that you're narrating involves wisdom or intelligence or whatever, you use that modifier to modify the dice you're putting forward. So you have to get 5. So if you have a +1, you could put together dice that equaled 4. But if you have a +1 modifier, the total would be 5. That makes sense?
Makes sense.
Great.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So now I've got to figure out how I'm going to narrate this.
Okay. Now, figure it out yourself or ask for ideas or help or whatever you want to do.
Okay.
When you have a big group...
Because if I'm using my wisdom, it has to make sense that I'm using my wisdom.
Correct. But inner conflict, by default, is just wisdom, I think.
Okay. Because, I've got a ballin' wisdom bonus.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and do the 1 die.
Ooh.
With my 1 that I rolled and my +4 to wisdom.
Okay.
And...
So I'll give you an example of what would make sense to me, and then you can say whatever narration you want. So an encounter would be like, I completely wipe this image out of my mind and begin backing away from the road. So that's one example, but you can come up with something different.
So I think that...
Thanks, Tim. Thanks for messing up our perfect flow with your Foley work.
I know how I want the whole scenario to play out, ideally. And so I'm going to go work towards that. And you tell me if the action I've chosen doesn't match what I narrate. Okay? So what I want to do is I want to go over there, like I'm about to reach out to touch them, and then I stop. And then I'm thinking about using a spell to try to heal them and help them. And so instead of using like lay on hands or something a little more sure and I'm hesitating.
You don't learn lay on hands until level 2.
Okay, I'm gonna try to do what is the one where you do it from a distance, heal from a distance. It's a
healing word.
Healing word. So I'm gonna try to do healing word, but it goes wrong. But I want it to fail.
And touch faith.
I want it to actually kill them on accident.
That doesn't work for this. You have to be giving in to your fear of death and whatever you're doing in a very dramatic way for this conflict to make sense. Because that's what you are representing right now. And I'm representing you overcoming your fear of death.
He's not afraid of like people who are hurt. He's afraid of when they're actually dead.
They're grody.
Once he's dead, now he's scared.
They got the cooties.
He's not scared of like helping somebody who's hurt.
Then I don't understand how this conflict makes sense anymore.
Well,
the person has to die for the conflict to make sense.
I don't know what you'd be doing after he's dead. Like, you don't know Ray's dead or anything.
No.
Maybe they'd want you to come bless the body or something instead of heal him. We could just retcon that.
Sure.
Okay. And so I'm wanting you to go over there and bless the body, right, instead of heal the person.
Okay.
And you are wanting not to do that because you don't want to be around a dead person, right?
Yeah.
And so what does your counter represent? Way of extra confirming your fear of death in this situation and not wanting to give in to changing that.
Yeah, so he is going to... Is there somebody watching me, expecting me to go?
There can always be. You can just make things up like that.
Okay, like so there's a senior cleric telling me to go bless this body, and he's wanting me to oversee me, do this whole thing, make sure I do the procedures properly, say the right words, and I just start backing away.
That's fine. Okay, done. Now, I will let that double as your beginning of your next raise for me. I don't know if that's proper procedure. As we discussed before, the same thing happened when I did it. But just as part of your raise against me, put together another die to go with that 1.
Okay.
And we'll still use the same modifier, so it's +4 to whatever you're putting there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and put my other 1. So
that's 6 total. Okay. So let's see. 6. I can do that. I can meet that with just 1 die. So that's another counter. So I'm going to counter that by saying, okay, this will be good. The cleric, let's say his name is Zigag. He grabs you, he sees you walking away and grabs you by the collar and pulls you close and says, son, you got to get over there and do the last rites in that body. I don't want to be training no scaredy cats. Old Zigag never trained no scaredy cat, and you ain't about to be the first one. Get over there now, or we're going to have problems. Okay, now you decide what your next move is. You can give in, counter, block, or take the hit, that kind of thing. And taking the hit in this case would mean walking over there. Not necessarily, I mean, it can mean anything up to overcoming internally the fear. So you could actually do what he tells you to do, but still not overcome it. And then we could continue this on in the future. That, that kind of thing.
So let's say doing the rites involves touching the body.
Yep.
I want to counter. I'll go over there, but I'm gonna not touch the body. I'm gonna like put my hands act like I'm gonna put them in such a way so it maybe looks like I'm touching the body, but I'm not. So I'm not doing it all the way.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
So
put those 2 dice, put those 2 that you used previously, just put them nowhere in particular. You can't reuse them. But put together 1 die that's 7 or more.
1 die that's 7 or more.
Yeah, including your wisdom bonus. Okay. And so you're just putting your hand nearby, without actually doing it.
Yeah.
And I am going to, let's see here, I'll put this away. Let's see, what's the total?
8.
Let's see here. I'm going to take the blow, which means you are going to make some kind of dent in me. And remember, this is a complex way of framing it. By the way, if you're not used to this, it's much easier to represent this if you're doing just a physical conflict, which is what it's framed as fictionally. But anyway, you get better at it the more you do it. So I'm going to take the blow, which means you're going to be more confirmed in your own being as you currently are. So I'm going to get rid of these dice. And we're going to represent that by saying, as you're doing it, you're getting closer and closer to the finish. And you're thinking in your head, I can do this. I can do this. I don't ever need to get over this. I can just stay the way I am. No one will ever know. So nothing's going to change. Okay, so I took the blow. Now it's my last turn to raise. This is my last dice. So if you want to change, just give up. And if you don't want to change, then if you call, or see, rather, this, I won't be able to see your next one if you have more dice. So you'll probably win and stay the way you are. So my next raise is going to be, I think it was a 6 and a 2. There you go. My next raise is going to be, let's see. Okay. The Zagig, your elder, is the priest who's in charge of your training. He's walking closer and closer, and you haven't finished the part of the rite where you have to touch the body. There's certain lines that you have to say in order, and then you're allowed to grab a cudgel or something that lets you get your hands away. And he's getting closer and closer, and you're thinking in your head, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. I have to touch it. I have to get over this. Now, how do you respond?
What was the total?
8. So you can decide if you want to change, give up. If you don't want to change, then get 8 or more, and then have at least 1 die left.
So I'm going to do the blocker parry.
Okay. So how do you visualize that?
Zagag gets to the point where I just know that he's going to be able to tell that I'm not doing it. I'm not touching the body. And so just kind of reach out and touch it to finish it. Mm-hmm. But when I do, instantly flashback to the whole traumatic sequence with my sister. Yeah. Freaks out, pulls his hands back, and it's really obvious. I just barely didn't finish the gotcha. Portion I was supposed to be at. And hands come back, make hands ball up, and Zagag totally notices that he didn't finish.
Okay. And now you make your last raise.
Okay. And then as a last raise, I guess...
and remember, you're confirming yourself as you currently are.
Yeah.
And it can be at any time. It can be in the future or just right now.
I guess you see him doing another rite in the future,
Yeah.
and he's doing the same thing where he's not touching the body.
Oh, okay, that's great. And I don't have any dice to counter you with, and so you can narrate the outcome, which I think that satisfies the conditions. Like we can infer from that scene that the outcome that you've not ever gotten over your fear of death. And so now you get to write a new trait on your character sheet and give it a D6 die rating. And so whenever that would come into play, you can get a bonus of that size. However, that's implemented. If we do it Dogs in the Vineyard style, you actually roll another die into your die pool to use. And if we're doing D&D style, you'll add it to like a damage roll or HP roll or something like that.
Okay.
And you just write fear of death or something, however you want to phrase it. Fear of death D6. And that's how traits work. That's also how experience works in default Dogs in the Vineyard. After you get into a conflict, if you had any blows that you took, like hits that you took, you roll the appropriate damage dice for those, which talking and mental is just D4, up to guns at D10. You can die if you get 20 damage, but less than that if you... you can die if you get 20 damage, period. There are lesser gradations of physical harm. But those only happen after the conflict's over, so it can be tropey. So you're fighting until the very end, and then you realize that you're mortally wounded after the thing's over, like in a cowboy movie where you get shot and then you die after the scene's over, kind of thing. But then if you roll any ones on those damage dice, those count toward experience, and you can choose from a list of upgrades to get to your character. So you kind of want to get hurt a little bit, typically by words.
Yeah.
That's how it works. Anyway, so at this point, we would do the same initiation conflict for any remaining players, and then you guys would all roll in at the same time to the first city. The best thing about Dogs in the Vineyard, I mean, I like the conflict mechanism, although you can see it takes a little while, but after you get used to it, it goes a lot faster, and physical fights are much more straightforward. But you roll into a city, and there's a series of steps that you take to prep it, and I did that already. And it's very simple, and it helps you flesh out everything. It's a great way to do it for any kind of city, like just for standard D&D. And all you do is I will present the problems of the town like immediately. I don't try to hide it from you. It's not investigation. You'll know what's going on. And the game is just how to decide what to do. They're supposed to be kind of difficult, gray shades, moral problems. You deal with them as you wish, deal with any fallout, both mechanical and fictional. And then once you're done with the city, once you decide that you're done with the city or you're dead, you go to the next city. And that's how the game goes. It's pretty cool. So we'll probably do that. Next time we'll follow up because I've already got it prepped. I can run this whenever. And yeah.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
That was it?
Word.
And I guess we'll do I don't think we have enough to do an After Dark. Typically, dear listener, after we do an actual play, we'll discuss it and put it on the patron-only feed at patreon.com/ggNoRe. But because this was just a character introduction scene and we haven't actually seen real gameplay, I don't think it makes sense to do an After Dark. Sorry, patrons. You'll just have to chat with us in our Discord.
The torture.
Sad.
Sorry.
So sad. Hey, but I'll release this write-up because this was an original OC town that I made. So I'll release this so you can just drop it into your game, either D&D or Dogs in the Vineyard. Works both ways, my dudes.
Just gotta skin it.
Just skin it. It's no problem. And with that, it's GG No Re.